After giving their fans exactly what they always wanted, a standout performance with all the brothers, including Michael, Jermaine was still in no way satisfied, even though they were only paid $1,100 each, in contrast to the $1 million Michael gifted his friend Marlon Brando to appear during the televised broadcast. Jermaine hoped that sharing the stage after 17 years would ignite Michael's enthusiasm, that Michael could be persuaded to take part in a nationwide tour, or at least record some new music. That being said, Jermaine didn't have the luxury to wait around for Michael to decide whether to give him and his brothers a break or not, as by this point he was quite simply flat out broke. It turns out that Jermaine Jackson filed for bankruptcy back in 1999 after racking up personal debts of over $10 million. And as a result, his assets were seized, including a whole host of Jackson memorabilia and personal items relating to Michael. Ready to be auctioned, it took years for Jermaine to regain ownership of the most important items, with brother Michael offering $20,000 for one of his Rolls Royces and a baby grand piano. Because of his truly dire financial situation, Jermaine chased several business opportunities during the early 2000s, some more bizarre than others. One included outlandish plans to open a $560 million casino resort in the U.S. Virgin Islands that would include a casino, a golf course, timeshares, and a conference center. Jermaine also attempted to forge a deal to produce and market Michael Jackson perfumes, naming them after his hits such as Thriller and Bad, as well as had plans to produce a Broadway musical about his family, plus a tell-all book telling the Jackson story from Jermaine's point of view. Jermaine said he and a writer had been at work on the legacy for over 3 years. Quote, "This is about surviving the good and the bad and making the best of it," said Jermaine. Quote, "To hold the family together has taken a power greater than us." As for his family's feelings about it, he pointed out that this was akin to 1992's The Jacksons, an American Dream miniseries. Quote, "They trust me. The family is in a nice and happy place. My mother's in great spirits these days. She loves seeing her sons back together on stage at Michael's concerts last September. LaToya's back in the fold, and she and my mother are back to being very close." However, Michael Jackson became increasingly paranoid at what lengths his financially stretched brother would go for book sales, especially upon hearing that Jermaine was shopping the book to publishers just when the King of Pop's life was tail-spinning out of control once again. Its ghostwriter, Stacey Brown, reportedly saying, quote, "The experience of writing the proposal, and then having Michael go nuts, Jermaine crying, and the family going into chaos mode was draining and weird." Now titled Legacy, Surviving the Best and Worst, Brown said that within weeks of the proposal going out, Michael Jackson somehow got his hands on a copy and went ballistic. In it, Jermaine allegedly dished about Michael's alleged drug and alcohol abuse, claimed that Michael's 2 older kids were fathered by a sperm donor, and suggested that their father, Joe, molested their sisters. After branding him a backstabber, Michael Jackson then threatened to throw Jermaine, his now ex-wife Alejandra, and their children out of the Jackson family home in Los Angeles that the superstar owned and paid for its upkeep. We are family. After being confronted with the real possibility of homelessness, the book was quickly scrapped and Jermaine tried desperately to get on Michael's good side just as the singer was about to face a whole new set of child molestation charges in a very messy and public trial, becoming a key figure defending Michael and acting as a mouthpiece for the artist during its legal proceedings. Jermaine appeared on television with Michael's defense team, substantiated his brother's claims, and echoed his convictions, expressing parallels in Michael's struggles and those experienced by the likes of Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, and Jesus Christ himself. Jermaine proclaiming, quote, "The whole family supports Michael 100%, 1000%. Michael is innocent," equating the trial by media being played out in daily headlines as a modern-day lynching. In fear of his safety, Jermaine put Michael in contact with advisors from the Nation of Islam, a militant black empowerment group he'd been associated with ever since converting in 1989. Michael received legal and spiritual counsel from the group, as well as security personnel during his high-profile court appearances. Fearing that his brother wouldn't be afforded a fair trial in America, Jermaine also claimed that him and his family secretly arranged to fly his brother Michael to Bahrain if the pop icon was found guilty of child molestation. The plot involved a private jet on standby to fly to the Gulf Emirate as they don't have an extradition treaty with the US. Jermaine Jackson saying that his brother did not know about the plot, but he would have done it in a heartbeat because why should he go to jail for something he didn't do? The wacky plan, however, wasn't needed as the trial soon resulted in Michael Jackson being cleared of all counts in June 2005. A period of celebration was, however, marred by Michael's desperation for rest and rehabilitation after the traumatic legal trauma. In need of complete escape and relaxation, Jermaine suggested Bahrain once again, as his close links with their royal family meant that they could provide the King of Pop calmness, safety, and complete privacy from the world's prying eyes. And in no time at all, Michael and his children were on private jets to the Persian Gulf for an indefinite stay. When asked, brother Jermaine claimed that Michael was now at peace. Quote, "I'm pretty sure he's just looking to rest. That's what's most important, to rest and get his mind back and focus on being a person. Nothing about doing this or doing that, but just resting." Ready for a comeback? With the Jacksons' most famous and controversial star out of action for the foreseeable future, with no signs of a reunion tour anytime soon, Jermaine soon switched focus to building some kind of television career for himself. The first attempt of this was Jermaine shopping around Hollywood the idea of a Jackson reality show in late 2005. Having stockpiled footage of them during Michael's trial and at other family events, Jermaine reportedly told family and friends he'd landed a $7 million deal for 13 episodes. Jermaine even promised that the King of Pop would make 5 appearances during its first season, even though the family hadn't been able to reach Michael since he'd moved overseas. When this concept fell flat, Jermaine came up with another show format and pitched it to networks. Titled Pop Dynasty, the American Idol-style TV singing contest aimed to find families of performers a la the Jacksons, with siblings Jermaine, Tito, and LaToya Jackson serving as judges. Outside of his own attempts at producing shows, Jermaine agreed to take part in a couple reality shows himself, including the UK's version of Celebrity Big Brother in 2007, where he was paid a reported $450,000, and the singing competition Gone Country the following year. However, just when Michael was coming out of his self-imposed isolation and was seriously considering his options for a career comeback, Jermaine made it public what direction he believed his superstar brother should go. That included, of course, a reunion of the Jackson 5 for a long-awaited worldwide tour, telling the Associated Press that his siblings were all on board, including Michael and Janet. Quote, "This has been a long time coming for the Jackson family to get back together," Jermaine Jackson said. Quote, "It is just the timing. So what we've been doing is working on the music and all the logistics. Janet's going to open, and of course the original Jackson 5, Michael, Randy, and the whole family. We're in the studio. We're planning on being out there next year." Although things didn't look good when Michael skipped the 2008 BMI Urban Awards, where the brothers were honored with the Lifetime Achievement Icon Award, presented by their sister Janet. Quote, "My brothers and sisters have my full love and support, and we've certainly shared many great experiences, but at this time I have no plans to record or tour with them," Michael said in a release statement. Quote, "I am now in the studio developing new and exciting projects that I look forward to sharing with my fans in concert soon." In March 2009, the King of Pop announced his own concert series at London's O2 Arena called This Is It, and then mere months later, tragedy struck. I Wish It Was Me. On June 25, 2009, Jermaine Jackson caught wind of Michael's sudden hospitalization after being contacted by reporters for comment. Having phoned his mother, who was arriving at the UCLA Medical Center, time progressed, and with little reassuring information, he called again for an update. With her voice cracking under emotion, she answered the phone and cried out, "He's dead. Michael's gone." Jermaine then immediately got in his car and raced down to the hospital, which by this time was already swarming with fans, reporters, and camera crews covering the developing story. He headed straight to his mother to console her and then wanted to see his baby Michael. Quote, "I wanted to see Michael, and I wanted to see my brother, and seeing him there lifeless and breathless was very emotional for me, but I held myself together. I kissed him on his forehead, and I hugged him. And I touched him and I said, "Michael, I'll never leave you. You'll never leave me." Jermaine then volunteered himself to be the one to announce to the world during a packed-out press conference the death of the legendary king of pop, Michael Jackson. As the world mourned in the coming days, Jermaine would appear on television several times, giving exclusives to Larry King Live and NBC's Today Show. With his tributes to Michael and thoughts on the insinuating investigation being quoted in newspapers and reported around the world. Quote, "He went too soon. I don't know how people are going to take this, but I wish it was me." At his public memorial service at Los Angeles' Staples Center, Jermaine did his part escorting Michael's casket alongside the rest of his brothers, each wearing a single sequined white glove on the hand in which they held the polished, solid bronze Promethean casket. Then Jermaine would take center stage during the ceremony, broadcasted to a global audience of 2.5 billion, the most watched non-sports television broadcast in history, and sang Michael's favorite song, an emotional rendition of Charlie Chaplin's Smile. Quote, "Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking." Cashing in. Although outwardly it appeared to be a heartfelt tribute for his beloved brother, those who knew Jermaine better within the Jackson family camp questioned whether this was merely an attempt to soak up some of the attention for himself. With the loved one's music sales going through the roof and millions being made from movie deals, memorabilia, and musical tributes, Jermaine soon started seeking ways he could also cash in. The easiest way to capitalize on the public's general sense of mourning was to release his live rendition of Smile to iTunes. The agreement called for the audio and video of the performance to be sold, with documents not saying how much the deal was worth. Jermaine then quickly announced plans for a star-studded Michael Jackson tribute show to be televised from the grounds of a 17th century palace in Vienna, Austria. Scheduled for September 2009, with big names like Madonna, Whitney Houston, and U2 reportedly performing to over 65,000 fans, Jermaine was assembling a lineup of about 10 of the biggest artists of our time. George Kendall of World Awards Media GmbH saying, quote, "Jermaine thinks maybe 1 billion people will watch the television show." Kendall said the tribute originally was planned for London's Wembley Stadium on August 29th, which would have been Jackson's 51st birthday, but Jermaine decided instead on Vienna. Jermaine Jackson telling Larry King that the final decision was made because his brother loved the city and loved castles. However, the grand plan soon started to fall apart when Jermaine failed to secure any of the top acts he initially floated. Although Jermaine stated that Mary J. Blige, Chris Brown, and Natalie Cole were to perform, the talent's representatives couldn't uphold his claims. Sister Sledge, Angela Bassett, and the Germany-based boy band US5 were among the 13 artists confirmed. In addition to Michael's original band and dancers, quote, "We're very excited the list is growing more and more," Jermaine Jackson said, adding that, quote, "Many major Bollywood names and artists from the Middle East would also be involved." Without any real A-list artists headlining the event, ticket sales were slow, and television networks weren't all that interested neither. The city of Vienna, who hoped the tribute would be a huge tourism boost and pledged $870,000 towards its costs, wasn't happy either. Realizing the show would not bring in as much advertising revenues as initially expected, it didn't take that long until the Vienna event was canceled entirely, and the tribute concert was rescheduled for summer 2010 in London. Jermaine stating during a press conference, quote, "Due to the short time frame, it was not possible for many of them to change their schedules so that they could be on stage in Vienna on September 26th. Therefore, we decided, after careful consideration, to change the date of the tribute concert to summer 2010. Now titled In Memory of Michael Jackson, Jermaine failed to confirm the exact date and venue of the event. That being said, the tribute show ultimately never took place, as the concert sponsors dissolved before the year was out, and no mention of the event was made from that point on. United at last. Another project in the works, even before tragedy struck, was the Jackson family's reality pilot, The Jacksons, A Family Dynasty, which wrapped on June 19, 2009. The series was originally planned as a one-episode A&E special documenting the brothers as they prepared for a reunion tour as the Jackson 5. However, after Michael died, A&E decided to expand it into a mini-series to chronicle the loss of their brother. Aired during late 2009 and early 2010, the 6 episodes featured the brothers as they record vocals for a song on Michael's This Is It soundtrack, them attending the premiere of the film, as well as them trying to balance their obligations to the Jackson 5 while pursuing their individual interests and projects. Jermaine would also eventually get his wish, with the brothers going on an extensive 6-leg, 70-show worldwide tour together in 2012, albeit without Michael. The concert's setlist consisted of the Jackson 5's most beloved tracks, Jermaine's solo hits, and plenty of touching tributes to Michael throughout. Jermaine would also finally get his book deal, but this time he decided to honor the memory of Michael in the 2011 memoir, You Are Not Alone, Michael, Through a Brother's Eyes. An intimate, loving portrait of his brother, illuminating their childhood in the spotlight and the private man Jermaine knew. This, as well as shedding light on some of Michael's most controversial eccentricities, as a final word for those who continue to speculate and wish to taint the lasting memory of the King of Pop. To this day, Jermaine remains as one of the most vocal members of the Jackson dynasty, acting as the family's mouthpiece and shooting down any nefarious claims brought against them, as a bid not only to protect his parents' and siblings' place in the history books, but to keep intact that honor for future generations. This sentiment likely having been passed on to his son, Jafar Jackson, who has been cast as his legendary uncle for the upcoming big-budget biopic, Michael. A decision Jermaine very likely had a hand in, and continues to demonstrate his instinct to protect and honor Michael in a way only a big brother could know how.